we're all
Coming
here.
in
Travis,
hot.
great to have you on the show. Uh, um,
Thanks for having me.
yeah, we're really excited to have you.
Yeah.
Travis is a really a master builder, but he also you're a master electrician, HVAC pro. So you have a license for HVAC too?
Correct. I'm a
Oh,
licensed master electrician, and I'm really proud of that license because I think I've earned it. I don't talk as much about the HVAC side because I feel like a novice. Even though I have the master's designation, I passed the test. I haven't kept my head in the game on that, and that technology has moved a lot. If
Mm.
you call me to troubleshoot your system on Thanksgiving because you're cold, I will leave your family cold. I have not had my head in the game to stay up with that tech. And so I don't want to say my license is a sham, but I can't take the same level of pride in that as I can my electrical
yeah,
side.
you're not
And
currently
yeah,
using that, basically.
well, I actually am because the way, unfortunately, the way
Okay.
that the market has gone, the way the market has gone, I've gotten back into HVAC and I'm doing more of that than electrical this year because you guys know this, most of your mom and pop electrical, plumbing, and HVAC companies are being bought up by massive conglomerates.
Right.
So I think there's maybe two or three in my market that aren't owned by some giant entity. And while that doesn't have to be a bad thing, what our experience has been with that for the most part is that the service is constantly degraded and they're not reflecting that degradation in pricing. Everything has
Mm.
gotten way more expensive. What would have been a $20,000 project is now a thirty to $40,000 project, and I can't feel good about charging my clients that. I'm not offering any more value.
Yeah.
We're capable of doing it in house, so I'm struggling through kind of relearning and resharpening those tools. And yeah, we're running all our mini splits in house, and I like that. I just need more time in the field for that. And it makes it hard to be a
Yeah.
good business person when you're in the field pulling line set and running duct.
Yeah.
This reminds me of the time, Travis, where I hired somebody to fix a line set for me. So they're out there brazing the line set, and I was watching the guy nearly start the house on fire, brazing the thing for like an hour and a half. Just he had to go get more gas, and this is working for a licensed HVAC installer. And I was, you know what, I can do that. I've got a torch. I the next install I do, I think I'm going to go do that myself. And I think
Sounds
part of what you're
dangerous to
talking
me.
about too is the level of how complicated things are sometimes masked by doing it 500 times to get good at it. And he probably was just a new installer, and but nonetheless, I did fool around with that a little bit.
I'm curious about what you said with building the business and being in the field and like that balance. How has that changed over the last, since you've started Catalyst Construction and like how's that evolved?
So a little bit about Catalyst will inform that a lot. Joe and I used to be project managers for a semi-custom residential new home builder, and we were both working at that company through about 2008. And 2008, not so hot for building. We were told that, yeah, we're going to lay you off and you guys might want to try and get your licenses up. You might want to try and do something else. Because Joe and I both had independently backgrounds in remodeling, and we were very capable. However, uh, making that transition from being an employee to running your own business was exactly what I think most of my peers experienced, which is you focus on the work part because the work part you know how to do, you can see what the finish line looks like and you know how to get there. The business part we continue to stumble through in my mind. Like I never go to anyone and say, oh, let me tell you how to run that as a great business person. I'm obviously very wealthy and successful based on my fantastic operations in my business. I think that we're doing fine based on being really really dedicated to high craftsmanship levels
Mhm.
and delivering projects that perform really well. I'm really proud of that, but I can't say that I'm super proud of our business practices because I feel like we still have a lot of room to improve. We're we always do right by our clients. I'm not suggesting the other, but I'm just saying there are opportunities that I could have avoided a problem. I could have contractually avoided a mishap or protected myself better or provided a better outcome for my crew or my family if I was a little bit better at business. And I'm just starting at 47 to get into the mindset of, I should really probably work on this business part of this. What I want to do is go out in the field and put my bags on and deliver great work every day. I get the most joy from that. I still enjoy the clients most of the time. Good clients you enjoy all the time, but challenging clients I used to like enjoy that I got through it and I found a way to deliver anyway and rah rah. I am less patient as an older person than I was when I was younger, and I don't relish in those victories the way I used to.
Yeah.
Now I want to move very quickly from, I know the right way to do this. Our crew is capable of doing this. Joe and I have trained our crew to do this. We will step in and help them do this for what we promised. And when it is done, there is very little to discuss
Mm.
other than a thank you.
Yeah.
Well, getting paid. Obviously, you need to get paid. And that goes back to the business side. I think where I've failed on the business side is in having standards, basically setting a crew member up for success. You bring someone on, I say, this is how we do it. This is how I always want this done. I know that the electrons will get from the panel to the device, even if the wire is all twisty, but we don't run it that way. Our conductors lay flat. Our cabling is flat, it's organized, it's turning swoops at 90. We don't mess around and do sloppy work because how we do something is how we do everything. And if it matters in the wall, it matters in the finished stage. And our clients can see it when they walk in through the job and they see this is the level of care that we put into our work. That matters to me. Well, that's really great. But if I would put that into maybe a slide deck so that a new hire could see this is the standard you'll be expected to reach, this is the training I want to provide. If I gave references, something that when people aren't with me, we just hired a guy last week. When Austin's not with me on the job, I still want him to be guided by what our company is supposed to deliver. And if I had put these things in place as we've been growing, I could set them up better for success. And on the backside, I think that would deliver a better experience to our client because there'd be less frustration for everyone. If I'm not there, my client's like, well, Travis said he was going to wire this, and now he's got so and so. Quentin's doing it. I'm going to call Travis and ask him, is Quentin going to put these switches? And yeah, Quentin's great. He's faster than I am at this stage, but I have to build that value in. And if I had
Mhm.
done a better job on systems development earlier on, it'd be easier to deliver that now.
That's
Mhm.
good.
Yeah, you look at earlier you mentioned how many we were just talking about how hard it is to get things right. Like the repetition of doing something over and over again to be able to get good at it. I think that's something that gets neglected on the business side is we walk into starting a new business and think, well, how hard could it be? Tomorrow I'll have my business up and running. And you realize that you've got the PhD in the trade and the kindergarten in running a business. And there's this huge offset between what you're trying to achieve on one side, and people look at that, see the quality of work, and there's also the vice versa. There's some people that are good at business but terrible at the trade. They haven't
True.
developed that skill yet, and so they can walk in and somebody said, oh yeah, you sold me all this thing and you can't deliver. And
Right.
so there's this, you walk into with the experience, you can deliver the product, which probably at the end of the day is more important than knowing what you're
Totally.
doing in business.
Yeah.
Obviously, people take advantage of you in that case, though. They can say, "Hey, Travis, can you throw that in for me?" Oh, yeah, sure. And you don't realize the negative impact. But it's that level of getting to the point of mastery requires repetition and
Mhm.
sometimes mistakes. I'm kind of curious of like getting to become a master electrician. Where was the motivation in getting a license?
I will try really hard to be brief, but I'm not good at that part. So you got to pull me back in if I get off the rails. The way that I came to my electrical license is a little bit around the bend. When I graduated high school, I was trying to decide if I was going to go to college in Colorado to teach theater and photography and the arts. That's a lot of my background's in that area, and I really enjoy that. But remember, I'm 47, so that's film cameras that produce an actual image on silver gelatin prints for people to enjoy. We don't do that anymore. And so I took this job after high school as a documentation photographer for the heavy construction industry. Very unique project, excuse me, very unique job shooting large commercial projects, water treatment facilities, office parks, aerial photographs of pipeline developments. It was a great way to get exposed to construction because other than building sets for the school plays, I didn't have a lot of construction experience, but I got to see these really cool, amazing jobs. And that photography aspect is very technical. And so after working at that for several years and then watching everything turn to digital and seeing that the world was going to put me on a screen all the time, I don't want to do software. I wanted to climb around on ladders and take pictures and be in the dark room. I left that position at PTN, which is a company we still work with, and I love those guys. But I left that position with the desire to become an electrician. And I reached out to this, uh, my friend Ben, he works at a lighting showroom at the time. he was like, "Oh yeah, Cal Electric's hiring. I'll let him know that you're interested in making a change," because I just wanted to get off of screens. I didn't want to have to do
Mhm.
video editing, and it just wasn't my desired way to interface with photography anymore. So I was looking for a change, and I'd been doing decks and building a little bit, so I thought I could do okay in construction, just as a next try. Well, the electrician said, I met with him. He said, "Yeah, I'll hire you in April." But Ben had also given my name to a local remodeler, and that guy said, "Well, I need someone right away. So Travis, if you want to come and talk to me, I'd love to talk to you about what we do." And so I interviewed with him, and he hired me the next day. And so I started renovating, and I didn't actually ever get to do the electrical thing. So that's how I got into like real construction, building projects out. And if you fast forward, 2 jobs later, after working on that really small crew, self-performing all these different aspects of renovation work, then becoming a project manager at a larger firm. When Joe and I started Catalyst, it was with a third partner initially, who was a structural engineer in the state of Kansas. If you have an engineering license, you are eligible for a contractor's license. Just send a check. So we could pull permits if Jason wanted to go ahead and get the license, because he was a structural engineer. My great friend Jason, I work out with him 3 days a week. He's a great friend. He decided to go back to engineering. He didn't stay at Catalyst that long. When he left, that license was null. So Joe and I looked at it and we're like, well, we got to obviously continue to pull permits. We're building jobs. We have to get our own license. And we're kind of a balanced firm. We're always trying to be equitable. It's like, well, either one of us can get it, but it's only going to be in that person's name. Joe was like, well, I want to get the general. I was like, okay, well then I'll get the electrician, and then we'll have one more thing that we could do, because I'd been doing a lot of wiring for a very long time, and I was very comfortable with it. I was confident that I could do it, and we both passed flying colors first time through. Took our local licensing testing. Proof of apprenticeship over time was all we needed letters for, and we were able to get that over the previous 2 jobs I'd had. I had all those hours, so that's how I ended up with the electrician's license first. The HVAC license was because the very next year we were like, I can't believe we didn't get the trade licenses initially when we started the business. Having that electrical contractor's license is a big deal, and it's super helpful because we did a lot of small renovations. And you know how much downtime you have on projects when you
Yeah.
have to shut down this trade and wait for this trade. When you have a full day in a single bathroom renovation for your plumber who's going to work for 2 hours, and then you burn the next day until the electrician can come in, you're wasting 8 man hours on the job of progress. So we decided the next year, well, why don't we go ahead and get the HVAC and plumbing certification? So Joe got the licensed master plumber, and I got the HVAC license. But I was so far away from the schooling for it that I had theory, and then I had test taking ability,
Mhm.
but I didn't have technical day-to-day troubleshooting. I hadn't pulled a vacuum in 6 years when I took that test. Like I'm glad to have it, and I'm really relying on it now. I've done our last 3 installs in the house, but that's how the licensing came to pass. It was about running our construction business in the most efficient way possible, and basically eliminating waits and downtimes on projects, additional profit revenue stream as well, uh, but really controlling our outcome, because there's nothing more heartbreaking than hiring a trade to come in and do the work that you know how to do, and watching them mess it up, and then either paying them to redo it in lost time, or doing it with your own crew to make it right for your client. And that we eliminated as rapidly as possible by licensing and self-perform.
Mm.
That's super cool. This kind of leads us right into the next thing I wanted to talk to you about. So, as we've got to know you, Travis, we've observed like you're just a high performing person. You're disciplined. You show up on time. You're the kind of guy that just gets things
Except for
done.
today. No, I
I was going to say I was 3 minutes late, but I texted Kinsey and I said 2:03. I'm 3 minutes
yeah.
late. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm on time.
Um,
I'm sorry to
Yeah.
derail you.
yes, you are.
Sorry,
No, I
you're
love
on
it.
time,
Yeah,
Travis. You're
yes, yeah. But I think that's walk me through, because that's a quality that few people possess, and I think it's something that also contributes so much to your ability to be effective in your business, because you're able to make promises that you can keep. Was that a journey for you to get to that point, or is that something that do you have like a Marine dad? Like, how did you get to the point of like you're just the kind of guy that just that gets after it?
Well, if we're here to psychoanalyze, you guys are going to need more backstory. And I think you can probably figure me out, because I'm a simple man. My father was a police officer. His father was a farmer. My mother was an accountant and a banking secretary for a while when we were little. But my parents are very disciplined people, not disciplinarians in the way they raised us, but they are very much the core of my ethos of responsibility. I feel like I have a personal responsibility to my wife and children. I have a personal responsibility to my parents. I have a personal responsibility to the built environment, to my crew, to make sure they have work. All that responsibility really goes back to them. And when I was in high school, my mom was finishing her degree. She had my sister before she finished college and wanted to make sure that she didn't give up on that dream. So I saw hard work always result in arriving at the finish line. And, the world's an unjust place. That's not true for everyone all the time. And so I don't mean to make it sound easy,
Yeah.
but it's very easy for me to look at things and go, there's the starting point. You put in this much diligent effort, hopefully, but you're prepared for this much more diligent effort. And then you get there. And that's how we deliver projects. When I look at a project, I always tell our guys, I was like, this is a results-based business. This does not matter if you're tired. It doesn't matter if you stayed out too late. It doesn't matter if you ate too much at lunch and you don't feel like lifting the refrigerator. It's refrigerator day. We're putting in the refrigerator,
Yeah.
and that's the job we're here for. So you will get to the end, and how everyone feels. While I want to be sensitive to it, I almost don't care. I mean, a prime example earlier today, I fell off of a ladder. I was very careless in the way that I placed it, and I fell off a roof, kind of the edge onto the ladder, and then fell on my shoulder. But I scheduled a podcast at 2, and so when I drove home, I called the doctor and said, "Can I get in at 3:30? And after we're done here, I'm going to find out if this shoulder needs an MRI or not." Now, no
Oh my
sympathy is
goodness.
needed. Please don't do that. What the reason that I'm telling you that is the goal is known, and once you establish what the goal is and you know the path to get there, there's really not too much to think about along the way. Like, the course is known, go and arrive. So that's that high energy thing that you're seeing. I think that has a lot more to do with responsibility. If I make a decision to do something, I'm going to get there, but the energy comes from a passion. I really love being able to make things. I love teaching, being able to show my kids the thing that I made. Every contractor has that. Oh, I made that one, I just built that one, I wired that one. I love that. I love it. It's beautiful. And I get that probably from my grandfather's farming roots. On both sides, I had grandfathers. They're hardworking people, cut thistles in the summer, throw bales, all that stuff. I
Yeah.
love to work hard. I have enthusiasm, and I'm very lucky to get to operate in an industry that rewards that. I get all these great opportunities talking to you guys, being at Build Show Live, IBS, all these great opportunities to interface with other trades professionals. Those building science symposiums we do with our nonprofit, that's a gift. It's so wonderful to get to talk to people that care as much about what we do. It just gives me all this energy, and then I feel like I have to give it back. So I'm very fortunate. I'm just
Yeah.
lucky to have that, and yeah, I come from good stock.
I
Credit to
love
my
that.
parents.
I love the
High
mentorship
five, mom and dad.
aspect. Yes, I love
Thanks,
it.
Mom and Dad.
I love the mentorship aspect that you are even passing on to your team as well, where you're challenging them to greatness. And I think a lot of times, I mean, I've been blessed with a dad that challenged me a lot as a kid, even as an adult. And it's not just you wanting to make your dad proud, but he teaches you how to do things by setting the example, not just telling you to do tough things, but he's able to do tough things himself. And I think you see that he gets hurt. He's not, he's not whimpering. He's just like, yeah, just keeps working.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, that's what a man looks like. And I think that's an aspect of like you're setting that example for your team, and that's a gift that you're passing on to,
Sure.
which is awesome to see. Your team is able to see you like, hey, I'm still showing up for that podcast. What a crazy illustration for
Yeah,
today.
I am sorry you fell off a ladder. I'm more
It's
sorry
my
that I
fault.
gave you that it is your fault, but I am sorry. I'm sorry I gave you a hard time for being 3 minutes late. I didn't know you fell off a ladder, Like,
Yeah, now
that's what-
Kinsey, come on, what a hill.
I guess I use that as an example, and it really leans into your point. That the idea of leading by example is extremely important to me, and I think that's going to be the hardest thing for me as I continue to age. And honestly, I had a tearful moment last year. I'm all over the map now. Sorry, let me complete a thought.
Love it.
I had a tearful moment last year. I was roughing in a basement. We were doing an electrical finish for the Building Consensus podcast that I do with Brandon Jones. Brandon used to have his own building business, and I guess he still has it, Jones Homes. They hired our firm as a subcontractor to do the electrical. Quentin's been my electrical apprentice for 7 years. We were working together on that project, just the two of us pulling wire, getting this basement finish wired out. And I looked at what I had accomplished and what he had accomplished in the same day, and I realized he was faster.
Wow.
Yeah, I got really upset about it at first. because I was looking at it from a selfish perspective of
Mhm.
I'm losing value. I
Mhm.
can't deliver what I normally deliver. My expectation of myself, I'm failing. And then I got a little further from it and realized there's no there's no better thing to be able to offer the world. I've
Mhm.
I've taken what I can do and then enhanced it by putting it through this other person who can do what I can do now and more. So that became really satisfying, and I'm so proud of Quentin. And he got a raise, a couple probably since then, because he's doing a really great job. But that moment also was the beginning of me realizing that I cannot be the fastest guy on the crew all the time anymore. And I'm sure that no one on my crew would want to hear me say it, but my deep core belief has always been I will outwork everyone on this crew. I will work faster than you. I will get more done. I am more committed than anyone. That's where I hang my hat. And that's how I used to establish my self worth more so than being a father and those things that I've learned and grown to have a better perspective as a person in the world. Some things are more important than being the fastest guy on the crew. But for a long time, that's how I sort of self identified. That was my
Mhm.
self worth, was all tied up into that. And now I'm finally starting to see that being the hardest worker with your back or your arms is not as important as what you can accomplish with your mind. And so I think as I transition through these next 5 to 10 years, that beginning of, hey, I should look at this business and see if I can run my business a little better because I won't be able to make up for it by working till 2 in the morning like I used to. I'm going to
Sure.
have to actually eliminate all the problems to make a profit instead of just outworking the failures.
Yeah. It's a
Love
really
it.
good call.
Love it. Yeah, it's really good. I was thinking about your commitment to excellence you were talking about earlier, where you show up to a job and you have this level of it doesn't if it's behind a wall, there's the things that everyone sees, and then there's the things behind the wall that nobody's going to see later on, and the things that are covered up that are the things you're still getting done right. Um, and there's this quality, this craftsmanship, this pride that you take in the work that a lot of people skip out on because of the numbers, right? It's like, well, we got to
Yeah.
get off this job. We're losing money. Quick, go, be done with it. Close that wall up. It's good enough. And that integrity that you have, but it's also somewhat, I guess, somewhat of a devil's advocate kind of a moment here. But there's an aspect of that being somewhat relative of your quality standard is not
Yeah.
necessarily what your customer is paying for.
Yeah.
On
I
this topic.
I had a moment last. I had hired somebody to detail my wife's car last week, and this guy went all out. I mean, he spent days cleaning this vehicle. It looks brand new. Um, but then when he told me what he was going to charge me to do it, or he was, and I was like, oh, ooh,
It's a
I
little
was
more than you expected.
like, yeah, this is not what I was thinking. And he said, well, because the last one he had done for half the price. So I was looking at that, and he said, "Well, that's on me. I should have been more upfront. I'll do it for whatever you're thinking." I said, "Well, no, I don't want you taking a loss on this. I just I've been in your position where somebody's telling me, well, you took too long, and that's your problem."
Yeah.
But I think there's this balance that we need to have when we're working for people. Guide me through your process and really where you have this standard and how do you arrive at, because I kind of share that perfectionist tendency with you of like we're going to get it done right, we don't care about how hard it is,
Yeah.
but you have to find this, we have to have run a business here as well.
Yeah, this is a great topic. I love this question so much because I think this is where all the nuance lies, and a tremendous push pull for me for a very long time. Because I started identifying early when I started getting really into building science that my clients weren't asking for it, but I wanted it.
Mm.
Right. So we were doing a lot of renovation projects. So if I tell someone, I can hit a point 0.6 blower door on that room addition, they go, I don't know what that
Okay.
is, and I don't know what I get for that. So what?
Yeah.
Can we cut that? Like, no, no, no. I'm not telling you I can cut it out of the budget. I'm saying that we're going to build this addition so that as you think about remodeling your house holistically over the lifetime that you live here with your family, every time you touch it, you want to bring it up to this level. And eventually you have this perfect, well, not perfect, as good as we can possibly do home for your family. We've got all the best technology. We've got the best and brightest people to teach us how to do this better. Let's do it every time we touch it. Let's make it as good as it can be. And I had a lot of clients that it really fell flat with. They just were like,
Yeah.
you're more expensive than the other guy. What? I don't want the thing that you're trying to sell me.
Yeah.
Will you put on the other house wrap? or you're just absolutely, you have to use this one zip system thing that you like, yes, it's better. I do. I like it, and that's what we're going to use. And so for a long time, Joe and I banged our heads against the wall on those front end project moments where we didn't end up getting the job. And so then what we started doing is not talking about it. And it seemed kind of stupid at the time, but it totally worked out because what we would do is build out the job. And when the clients would come, they'd be like, I've never seen this before. It was like, well, it was in the proposal. It's in line item 4. We're doing zip system. We're going to tape the seams, and this is about water control, but also about air tightness. And we can work all this in. That's just part of our process. And they're like, oh, well, that sounds really good. No one else really talked about it. It's like, yeah, that's how we build our jobs. And then what we found is we were educating clients even on jobs that we didn't get. I've had people come up to me in the grocery store and pull me aside and be like, I recommend you to everyone. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name. I'm like, oh, we didn't hire you. You bid our such and such, and we really should have hired you. We had a miserable experience, and everything that you talked about, it's exactly how it went. And so we really, we just recommend you all the time. Like, that's very nice. I appreciate that. I wish you would have hired us. That would have been a better way to do that. But the idea of then transitioning over about 6 or 7 years from kind of not talking about it so that we wouldn't lose the job because people would want to cut it out, and we would just do it at a loss or not making much profit, I guess. We would cut it on our end so that we could do it the way we wanted. Into now what we do, basically people are coming to us for that thing that we used to give away so that
Yeah.
we could do it. And we positioned ourselves as sort of experts in the field in this area where, I mean, there's 4 or 5 really great high performance builders in Kansas City, friends of mine that I really like and respect. And I love losing jobs to them. I'm like, those guys are going to build a great job. Jake's going to build this one. It's going to be
Yeah.
awesome. We've got friends that call it. Those guys are going to do a great job. I love that because there's plenty of work to go around and we're all busy as heck. Booking 14 months out, no problem. But that trajectory is, when we talk about perfectionism, it is what brought my mind probably 7 years ago to the idea that there are some items that are vanity. And I admit freely, laying out electrical cable in a perfect alignment, stapling it in a beautiful pattern that stair steps down, that is my vanity, 100%. The performance of the electrical system is not enhanced in any way by that. However, the part that is not vanity is you establish a methodology and a process. And
Okay.
when you do it and commit to it, when something looks out of place, you can find the problem fast. So if I'm orderly in all of my work, just keeping in with electrical, we always rough in boxes the same way. If I am orderly in my work and I commit to a process and all my people that work in this way deliver the project that way, it doesn't matter who comes in to work on it. If we have a troubleshooting issue, everybody knows how it went together because we always do it the same way. Everybody has the same rational thought about which way it was routed. So if we needed to add some recessed lighting in, we would know where that is. All those things that are process, they do have a value. They do. But being a perfectionist is probably not something I can align with the work that we do. It's just committing to the pursuit of perfection in process and in delivery. And I really feel strongly that we have found that right line, because it is a line. To your point, that second day of car detailing, I'm sure it was really hard work, and I'm sure that he's worth the money and it's awesome, but he didn't do a good job of setting expectations on the
Yeah.
increased price, and he exceeded the expectation of what you wanted done. So did he serve you well? Are you better served to have more than what you wanted at a higher price point? If somebody surprised my client that hired me to build their $1.2 million house with a $2 million house, that client would not be happy about that $800,000 increase, even though it's a nicer house. It's
Yeah.
not okay to do that. So I think your point is well made. There is certainly a line where you have to balance that. And there are some things that I accept. This is for me. I want the air control layer to be perfect on this, as perfect as we can get it on this renovation project, because hopefully someday they'll hire us to do the rest of the house. But it's not delivering great value to them now. It's just it's the most comfortable part of the house. It was going to be that anyway, because it's the only thing that's been touched in the last 30 years. Even if we did a code minimum job, it would be a huge improvement. But if we look at our processes and everything that we touch and try to do our best all the time, we can feel good about ourselves. We can make sure that our clients know that that's our commitment level. And I think that that tiny amount of vanity that is in the appearance of things is washed away with the value you get in a well executed project.
Well said.
Yeah, I think that's so good. I think one of the things that stands out to me just because I love the pre-construction side of just like how do we set up this project for success? How do we win it? Is that realization of like selling to your customer to their motivation and not your own, I think is so key, right? I think it's a hard balance though, because a lot of times we talk about educating your clients. And so it's like, well, what does that mean? What does educating them mean? Educating them means we're going to educate you on the process and setting the expectations for what this will look like and the benefits of certain things over the other. But it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to educate you on every single line item that's on my bid and go into the detail. I'm like, I would be, as a homeowner, I would be like, this guy's crazy, you know? And I would zone out because I would just, you know what I mean? Because in a remodel, especially as a homeowner, I'm like, it's an aesthetically driven thing, right? I mean, for most people, I'm not saying that there's not some people that want, more of to improve, like you're talking about, of like over the longevity of the home. But a lot of homeowners, they're not necessarily in their forever home either. So they don't have that like, well, in 60 years, it's going to be
Yes.
amazing still, like I don't think that people think that long term. And so I think that thing that you highlighted about educating and selling to your customers' motivation while still bringing in excellent building science, excellent craftsmanship is an excellent call out just for people listening of like that is educating. And I would say too, like of course people are coming to you now because you've built a brand around building science. You know what I mean? So you have people, that there's that piece too of well done on that, of course. But so you have to like meet in the middle though of like when you're starting, you can't just be like unless you're branding yourselves as a niche of like, I'm building passive houses or I'm building, you know what I mean? You have to niche up or it has to be just a process of like what you're talking about of like weaving that in, I think.
It's
Yeah.
really good.
I think
Yeah.
there's something really powerful there in that brand alignment, where even if I was struggling and not making ends meet to do projects that I also couldn't be proud of and didn't care about because the workmanship was shoddy, that would be heartbreaking and I would quit. We struggled and we took losses on jobs based on committing to these ideals, and I was still happy to do it and I still value those things. So you're right. You set those expectations early on and then you try to live into them, and being able to make sure that you're delivering what your clients actually asking you for. That's what we're in a service industry. You got to deliver on that side. If you want to give them more, that can be the future of your brand.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
a little fun kind of sideline here. We're at the Build Show live. Travis is there. Kinsey's like, we're in some of these assemblies and building science kind of conversations, and
I mean,
Kinsey's
I-
eyes are glazed over.
I sent a picture to my husband of it was the Matt Reisinger, Steve Basic, like first day VIP day, and they're going through building science 201. I think it was 201 that day. And I'm like, what is building science? Like just based on no, I'm teasing. I know at least that. But I'm like, my experience is not construction, like people
Sure.
listening to this podcast. My experience is marketing and business development and sale, things like that. I sent a picture of a wall assembly, that Steve has up on the screen to my husband, and he goes, "You're in a little over your skis there, aren't you?" That's what he says, and I'm like, "Oh no, I'm picking up on all of this. This is great. This is how you get great, though.
Yeah.
You dive into places you don't understand. This is how you learn."
My visual reaction for people that are watching is different. But when you said, "Oh, what is building science?" I wasn't shrugging like, "Oh, that's sad. You don't know." I was like, "Oh, it's sad. I don't have 4 more hours because I love building science and I
Yeah,
can't wait
no,
to tell you everything about building physics." It's not like I love that you want to learn more.
I love Steve Basics on the building science talking. He had 2 2x4s, and he said, as soon as you take those 2 2x4s and put them together, you have building science. And
That's
he's
right.
like, you have a system, like you have two things coming together. And I think that's something I'm passionate about, even more so than building science, is business science. And I think I think it's somewhat gets neglected because as somebody that used to build, I loved to build. I loved to get out there and get with the crew and do things. And that always cost my business. I grew to a team of 14 people. And anytime I was out having fun, spraying something or doing something, something else was falling apart in my business. And I think that I naturally am an entrepreneur. I think that was just like, I think I started my first business when I was 6, selling little boxes to my sister or something like that. But It's kind of one of those
Great.
things where I couldn't get away from it. But nonetheless, I think there's an aspect of similarity though, where you take any business process and at its simplest form, and you still have science there, like you have process, even if it's simple. So let's not overwhelm our audience with, yeah, and not that we're trying to, but like, it's science is not some big PhD level thing.
Yeah,
It sometimes
it's
starts
true.
off with the fundamentals, the very basics.
Yeah,
And
that's a good call.
you have this quality standard that you have, and there's an element of selling that to your customer, but there's also an understanding you have to have of what that costs to build. And I think there's a positive aspect of, well, the process, what it costs, how it's built. Like that's the positive. On the negative side, you have a higher cost of material. Sometimes you have a longer cycle of building it. There's more work, there's more labor involved potentially. And so there's sometimes that's not understood. You're like, we're going to build the best darn homes we can do. We can have these amazing processes, but you got to understand your costs. So how did you arrive at the point of being able to run a great business? Not just like you're able to take home a paycheck and feed your family, not just do the things you love to do, which is important as well.
Yeah.
Well, it feels unfair to not have Joe on this with me, because Joe handles the majority of the pricing, the majority of the invoicing. He is the company's de facto CFO. So it's not really fair for me to get all the credit for running a successful business because Catalyst is half Joe. And I think that, to answer your question fairly, how you arrive at that is you make a lot of mistakes, or at least we did. Like I said, we suffered through those times where it was like, well, no, we're committed to doing it this way. I'm afraid we're going to lose some money on it, but let's try it and we'll learn from it. And that's what
Mhm.
we're buying with those lost profits, is the knowledge to do better next time. So that was really our arc of, I mean, when we started in 2008, there was just no work. I think our first project, oh no, we did a room addition and a kitchen and a bathroom, but then there was a little dry spell and we painted a house. I
Yeah.
hate painting. I don't want to paint a house. I don't want to do power washing and scraping and prepping. But Joe had a successful painting company way back in the day. He's like, yeah, we can do this. And when she wants to do the kitchen, we get the call, which is always the way that my first boss in remodeling, Al Faltermeyer, he told me, we were hanging wallpaper, which I also hate. And I was like, why are we hanging wallpaper? This is so dumb. We can do so much, like, we can do really important stuff. He goes, yeah, Travis, we're not hanging wallpaper because we want to hang wallpaper. We're hanging wallpaper because we want to build out the kitchen. And when we do that, then we're positioned to build their next house. Because
Mhm.
when you're the person that they trust, they call you for the things that they need done. And so get the wallpaper done so that we
Yeah.
can do the next thing.
Some people are going to react to that a little bit and say, well, you want the professional hanging the wallpaper, the professional doing the painting, not, just taking that on. So there is a balance there. And I've seen that work well in both guys getting out and doing everything themselves. Where have you discovered that line to be at? Like, when does it make sense for you to do it? And when does it make sense to go contract it out?
So we always subcontract excavation. We always subcontract foundation. We always because I'm not going to buy a dozer and mag forms at a
Right.
$60,000 investment. It's stupid. Those guys are
Yeah.
going to always be better at that than I am. I've never spent enough time in it. Flat work we subcontract. Drywall we subcontract, because even though I know how to do it, on a whole home and renovation work, we self-perform our drywall, because then it's not
Mhm.
just about getting a flat surface or speed. It's about cleanliness. Cleanliness is
Mhm.
something that you will almost never be able to never be able to deliver as well with a subcontractor as if you had self-performed. That's,
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think, unequivocally true. I am always going to care more about my client's house than someone who will only see it for 3 days, not 8 days, get their check and move on down the road. I'm going to have that relationship with that client for a long
Mhm.
period of time. And I care about that cleanliness. So that's the stuff that we self-perform on smaller jobs. But I guess, to your point, yeah, I probably wasn't the best paper hanger, but I matched all my seams and it looked great. The better paper hanger would have done it in a third less time. The
Mhm.
project was still delivered to the quality that the client needed. And that wasn't the shortcoming. It was the speed at which it was
Yep.
delivered would have been enhanced by an expert. And that's certainly true on drywall. Even when we self-perform our drywall projects, we were lucky. We had Lydia come and teach us how to run taping tools years ago. Lydia Crowder, Drywall Shorty on Instagram, build show stuff. She's awesome. And her and Ryan came down and they showed us how to use these level 5 taping tools. And it was a revelation.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
We've been
mind
working
blowing.
out of pans for years.
Yep.
But then as soon as they stopped showing and let us do, the amount of space time continuum like we were going so painfully slow. I think it hurt Ryan's face to look at how bad I was at what he had just taught me how to do. And we were like, yeah, we're not going to get this wrapped up. So I think we might have to skip lunch. I don't really know what to do here. And Ryan's like, just give me the box. And like finished out a room in 8 minutes. Like, I struggled on this corner for 35 minutes. He goes, that's right. But that's what you're talking about. Someone who is so much better at it can deliver it much faster to get to the finish line. But just like I talked about on the HVAC side, I'm not going to be faster than the pros, the service techs that are out there every day. No question. They're better at that job than I am. However, I'm going to deliver it on a budget that they're not offering right now. And I can feel a lot better about that. My client's not taking a performance loss. Their quality of install is the same. I'm going to arrive at a perfectly balanced functional system. And frankly, my attention to detail is way better on the ductwork side than any sub I've ever encountered, but I'm going a lot slower. So you're right. There's a trade-off there. And that paint, the house that we painted, I feel the same way. Joe and I spent enough time prepping that house that I could see that's more than I got as a new construction project manager on that custom home builders crew. Those guys were blow and go. You power wash it today, you paint it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, that's not necessarily the right answer. What if there's something that needs more scraping? What if you find a place that didn't really get the angle from the power washer to properly prep it? Spend the time and do it right. So I've never been about speed. I've always been about quality, and that has hurt me financially, but it also gives me tremendous pride at the end of the day. And you're right. There's definitely faster, better paper hangers than me.
I love the segue. I think it really points to the awareness you have going into those situations, though, that you're aware of the quality, the time, the experience formula. And you're saying, I don't have the experience yet, so therefore it equals more time to get the same quality. Whereas the experience supplements that and said, well, now I can do something much faster.
Right.
And when you walk into knowing that ahead of time, it kind of helps with the kind of guiding through the illusion. I'll be just as fast as that guy I watched on Instagram that just did that so fast. It was kind of funny because I like to cook, but I'm not a great cook. I'm a breakfast food kind of a guy. Like I got 4 boys. My oldest is 10. They love to eat. So it's like, breakfast, Saturday morning, I'm going to be cooking breakfast. And so I saw this recipe that somebody came up with, like these stuffed potato pancakes. And I thought, that's cool. That's easy piece of cake. So what you do is you take mashed potatoes, you basically roll them out, and you make like a I don't know, it's like a stuffed
Patty.
wrap. You're going to wrap cheese and bacon inside this and then fry it. And so
sounds delicious. Yeah, I'm in.
Let's go. So I'm making these things, and I'm like, this takes 2 or 3 times to master. It's like they're not coming out Instagram perfect the first time you try something. And I think that's one of the things that even in construction, I was telling Kinsey a couple weeks back, I was working on a project, and in the first time I cut that board, it fit like it grew there. Like it was just perfect. And it feels so good when you get it right like that. You cut a board, you don't even have to hardly use the tape measure, and it just, comes out great. And I'm thinking about all the hundreds or thousands of times that it didn't come out that great in order to get to that level. And then you kind of like, it kind of gets you off your high horse, It's like, well,
then you get humbled a couple cuts later.
Right. Exactly. Whoa, Ben, wake up.
Yeah.
And that can happen too. But it's really interesting. Sometimes we look at somebody with skill and we say, wow, what talent. And instead of being talent, it's really not that. It's just somebody just applied themselves. Somebody was diligent. They showed up and they did a lot of reps. They just worked hard. And I love when you talk about outworking everyone else, you put in that's a big part of the formula of getting really good at something is passion, but also the hard work to just stay after it. When everyone else is saying they wanted it to be easy, you're saying, I don't care if it's hard. I'm going to get after it and get it done.
Yeah, you waste a lot of time and energy trying to think about, gosh, I'm not happy about this. This is harder. It's cold. My hands hurt. I'm tired. We could do this tomorrow. You waste all this time and energy hemming and hawing about that stuff. You just get it done. You can move on with everything. Everything works the way it was planned. And for me, it's worth it. I get it. I'm the owner of the company. With Joe, we split the profits. So I am going to be more invested. And that ownership mentality is not something I can expect everyone else to have. But definitely the idea of putting in the work to master those pancakes made of bacon and potatoes and cheese is something I'm expecting from you, Ben. And next time I'm wherever you are, I want to have those.
Yes. Next time you come to Springfield, brother, that's what we're eating.
You better get started practicing.
Okay, so some trivia questions for you. A little segue here. Not trivia. Like this would be what? Some random
questions
for you. So
hard
pipe versus PEX versus Romex. I'm sorry, yeah, Romex. What do you like? So like
Uh,
conduit versus your MC cable versus your Romex.
Yeah, I'm definitely pulling non-metallic cable in 100% of my projects. The idea of having conduit, yeah, future proofing. I get it. You could pull a fish line and move it around. I do a ton of remodeling. I've never wanted to do that. It's always easier to do a little drywall patching and move that conductor to where it needs to be. So non-metallic cable for me. We use AC and BX cables in applications that we need it. And I've done some really fun conduit bending, but I don't see a practical application for it 90% of the time. When I get to work on it for, an HVAC something or something outside, I'm always like, oh yeah, I love conduit, but I love it for a half a day.
Right, right. You do not want to do a whole house in it. I grew up in the Chicagoland area, so that's probably more of like the northern boy kind of there'll be some of those Chicago guys who'll be like, oh man, this is the best way to do it. EMT pipe all the way. And then on PEX, I mean, so there's obviously it's like market dominant thing. Do you guys do the crimp fittings? Do you guys do what
We
kind of
do.
fittings do you guys do?
So for the majority of our projects, we are running crosslink polyethylene PEX pipe. We do a fair amount of ProPress fittings, the copper fittings for the 3/4 lines. We're trying to deliver, something to a steam shower or something that requires a little more robust connection. There's a practical application for that, but this gets back into that vanity versus necessity conversation. The water's going to get there through the PEX, honestly, probably with less problem than the copper after a period of time because there's less corrosion. Your freeze thaw expansion is far superior. Like there are some real benefits there, and eliminating joints means eliminating leaks. So PEX has a home in our projects, but Joe still does a lot of pro pressing on manifold systems. We do a lot of tankless heater units, and also gas piping. We pro press that as well. I sweat
Yeah,
pipe with my guys on a bathroom last year because Joe was out of town and he had the pro press tool with him, and
yep.
we needed to get this shower valve in. And the guys were like, what are we going to do? I was like, just sweat it. And I realized that our
No
guys
sweat.
didn't have, yeah, they had no idea. They didn't know how to sweat pipe.
Yeah,
They'd never done it before. And we've got some
yeah.
guys that have been around a while. So I was a little bit surprised. I was like, well, this is a great opportunity. Let me show you how to do this. So I got out
Yes.
my stuff and, we sweat the fittings together and got that shower valve in and I felt like I still had it. But I would
Awesome.
say you're better off on cost and durability. It's really hard to make a case against PEX.
Yeah, no, I love it. Yeah.
Yes.
On the siding stuff, are you a hardy guy or do you like the LP Smart side? Like, where do you land on that stuff?
I really I really wish we could afford to just do cedar shakes on all of our all our
Ooh,
siding
ooh,
projects
yeah,
because I love
yeah,
hand planing and weaving the corners. I'm not Mike Gurton out here. I'm not like decorating a wolf landscape into the side of the cedar, but that would be my preference. If we're going to talk about what the bulk of our projects are, honestly, it kind of ebbs and flows. Clients got really excited about the termite resistance from Hardy when it came out and hit the market, but the shorter sections and the brittle nature of it have made
yeah.
it a little, I wouldn't say fallen out of favor. We did my parents' house in LP Smart Side uh, 15 years ago, and it still looks great. I've got Smart Side on my house. The house we're doing right now has LP on it. It's just the lengths are longer. You're working with wood. It's easier. When they had that LP Smooth before they took Smooth away, that
Yeah,
was the bee's knees. I just hate the
yeah,
fake stamped wood grain. I've got it on projects. I just hate it. It's not my thing. And that's what I
yeah.
like the Hardy for. If we're going to do a contemporary, the Hardy panel for sure. But every chance that I get, I want to try and use real wood, organic materials, more sustainably minded things, or something that's super durable, like a Boral True Exterior or Versatex, something with fly ash base, because then we're
Mhm.
taking waste out of the potential waste stream and putting it back into a better use that can be sustainable.
I worked for a designer a few years back when I had the construction business, and he wanted to do an epay material on the exterior of a house, and it was gorgeous. We spent a $500,000 on this house, but it
Yep.
was absolutely beautiful. And so hard. I mean, we went through so many saw blades and drill bits trying to get that stuff up, but he had it all. It was all blind fastened, all with the rain screen behind it, and then you did the oil treatment on it. He had the dark with the light, and it just it was just a beautiful,
It's
beautiful
beautiful.
product.
We did that a few years ago. Actually, some friends of ours right up the street, so I still get to see the house very regularly, and it's a real nice, just so durable. And I actually love it when they let it weather gray. I love that grade cedar. The gray Ipe is just as
Mhm.
beautiful in my mind. So that would be, if money is no object and time is no object. Yeah, I'm in for Ipe. But yeah, I'm with you. I think we ruined our Capex. Our festival Capex saw more oils and tannins than anything it ever should have. And yeah, but Ipe is great. Beautiful, beautiful product.
So you going
It's
for the Festool products? I mean, it's hard to not to.
We had to for dust collection. We did an interior. This guy called it his California room because he built it after a major foundation repair where half his house sort of snapped off and started sinking. So he called it the California room because of the whole.
that's
Yeah,
amazing.
I thought it was funny.
That's
Anyway,
funny.
it was a large vaulted space, and we were going to wrap it all in cherry and stone. And so some really cool custom trim carpentry, built-in panels, recessed hidden doors, things like that. And it's like we just can't, the cedar can't be outside. I mean, we can't stage this job outdoors. We have to build it in the space. We've got to do dust collection on an exceptional level. And we had air scrubbers, but that's when we stepped up to festival. And for that, it's indispensable. When we cut outside, we usually run Milwaukee. I'm not a tool snob. I want the best performance because I'm really involved in electrical and HVAC, and of course our firm does plumbing. We work on the Milwaukee platform, but I've used a lot of great tools by other manufacturers. Milwaukee's my favorite.
And you kind of pretty much got to pick a brand and stick with it because you have all the interchangeable
Batteries.
batteries, parts, and all the rest. I mean, like you just have to
Got
kind of
to.
go with it. I went with Makita, and I'm stuck with it now.
They make great stuff though. They have
Yeah,
they have a double battery saw that I have only used once, and I can still remember how it felt. Like some of their stuff is
yeah.
just that
I
good.
have that
Like,
saw,
oh,
buddy. I got that.
that's
You
an
can come
awesome
use it.
saw.
Come on down.
It's a workhorse.
Oh, it's fantastic. We ended up having when I think I was about 6 years old. You got 6 years on me, so I'm 41.
Okay.
And when I was about 5 or 6, they had just come out. Makita had just come out with a cordless drill, like
Oh
in
yeah,
the
the
80s.
long stick.
Yeah, the long stick battery. Yeah, and my dad came home with
Yeah.
one, and I remember that we went with Makita, and so that was like, and then he got a power planer, and there weren't many. I mean, like now everything's cordless. Back then it
Yeah.
was like, oh, you have a drill that's cordless. That cool. Like,
Great.
They
but
were the leader. They make great
Yeah.
stuff.
yeah. So if people want to find Travis, he's a contributor on the Fine Home Building magazine. So you've got a lot of articles online, some cool stuff there. Obviously, Build Show.
The most of my time that is social media is all on Instagram. I don't really do anything on LinkedIn. So you can find me at Catalyst Built. And then I would really encourage you to check out a Building Science Symposium, that nonprofit that Joe and I run. I'm really proud of that. We try to educate builders and tradespeople on building science, and it started in Kansas City and has grown to be in 5 or 6 markets here. We're going to be doing the day before IBS, and then we'll be in Seattle, Sacramento, Cincinnati, and Philadelphia and Kansas City. So if you want to learn about the stuff that I'm talking about, that's a great place to connect with other people. And all of the money that we take in from that, we put into skilled trades education. To date, we've raised almost $160,000 to help support skilled
Amazing.
trades education.
Fantastic.
So that's why I'm so proud of that. I would love,
Yeah.
come and meet me there. That's where I want to meet you.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I love
I
it.
love it.
You're such a go-getter, brother. I mean, just fantastic. So any parting thoughts, any final thoughts for our listeners?
I don't think I have advice other than just to really commit to uh, commit to the process. Whatever you care about, that you're passionate about, just commit to it and follow through because there's a reward there. It's always worth it. I've never been disappointed at how hard I work to make something the way it should be. So I think
Mm.
there's a lot of joy there. And then I guess this would be the right place to insert that pancake bacon pancake recipe so that we can get that going. And what I want to do is come down and I'll run your saw out in the yard in Springfield while you make the pancakes. And then when I come in from that, Kinsey, will you show me how to run Congenius a little more efficiently? Because I'm not
For
really
sure.
I don't have it yet. I told you
Let's
I'm not
go.
much on the tech side, so you got to
Yep.
give me a hand.
I love it. My husband and I will come over. It'll be a family gathering with everybody,
love
all
it.
the kids. Cool. Thanks for
Travis,
coming on.
thanks, brother.